Hello y'all, I'm Tina and welcome back to my book and craft corner. Today is going to be, I don't know why I started saying welcome back. Recently when I'm trying to film videos, I keep saying welcome back, but I guess we're going with it. Today's going to be a recommendation video for Nora Roberts' book set in Maryland. Because that is one of our prompts for Nora November. That is a read-a-thon that I'm going to be co-hosting with Storm from Storm Reads. And I tried to film this video many a times, and it did not go well. And then I messaged Storm and I was like, I don't think we have enough, there's not that many Maryland books. There may have been a little bit of an oversight on my part as I created that prompt. And she was like, let's just combine it with Ireland. Like, if you want to, you can read some Ireland books and count it. I mean, really, all this readathon is about is reading Nora books. So do whatever you gotta do, right? Yes, first I'm gonna start with the Maryland books and then we're gonna get into the Ireland books. These are two locations. These are two locations that Nora sets her books in frequently. She has a lot of different states and a lot of different places she sets her books in. But she always, when she writes it, she always writes them very I don't know what the word is, lyrically, I'm probably wrong about that. Ambiance, just very detailed about her locations. It's always such beautiful descriptions wherever they're set. Her newest romantic suspense, standalone, was set in Kentucky, which was so exciting as someone who lives in Kentucky. And it was just a beautiful description of Kentucky. It was so atmospheric and it felt so real, and that's the word, atmospheric. Her books and their settings are so atmospheric. So I guess, why don't we just get into it? So I'm gonna first, as I said, start with Maryland. The first series I have here, I don't own physical copies of, and that is the McCade Brothers series. It's a 4-book series. Rafe, The Return of Rafe McCade, The Pride of Jared McCade, The Heart of Devin McCade, I believe, and then The Fall of Shane McCade. And these are about these 4 brothers. It's set in the 90s, very 90s vibe, who live in Maryland, who live in a very small town, historic small town in Maryland that's kind of historic because of the Civil War. There were some Civil War battles fought in the town. And now I don't know if this is historically accurate, if actually if there was actual battles in Maryland, name this and these are the people. I don't know that. I can't confirm that, but because I have no clue. But there is a lot of details about the Civil War within this town. And in the first book, Rafe McCade moves back into the town he grew up in. He buys this inn that he was always kind of attached to as a child, and he thinks is haunted. It is haunted. So the series is lightly paranormal, and as he's rebuilding this mansion or this old inn to be a new inn, he's going to an antique store and he meets the owner of the antique store, and they have a romance together. The series is so freaking good. I absolutely loved it. I think I finished it this year. And it was just fantastic. It is category romance. Like I said, lots of 90s vibes happening. Now, by the way, you might be able to hear my mom talking because she works on the other side of this wall. So you might be able to hear her talking. So the next series I have to talk about is the Chesapeake Bay Saga. The first book is Sea Swept. And there's 4 books. It was originally a trilogy, and then she wrote a book about the 4th brother later on because he's a lot younger. And I haven't read that one yet, so I'm gonna hopefully read that in November. This series is about these 3 brothers who were all adopted by this husband and wife, the Quins, and they've all as they grow up, they've all spread out. At least 2 of them left the town. This book follows Cameron. I believe he might have been living in France. I could be wrong about that. He's a racer, a boat racer or a car racer. Not totally sure about that. But basically all the brothers get called back into town because their father was in a car accident and is about to die. And his final words, his final request, his dying wish to his sons was to raise the young boy that he started fostering recently. His name was Seth. Yeah. And basically they all have to move back into town to start fostering this boy and to try to get custody of him and help him work through his severe trauma. all four brothers, the three older brothers, and then of course Seth, they have a lot of childhood abuse trauma. Three of them have sexual trauma as a child. Even though it has a lot of hard things to read in it, it's still beautiful and also fun story. There are so much fun family moments in her books, so yeah. So our next Marilyn book is Legacy, and this is a standalone category. Nope, it's not a category romance. And this is a standalone romantic suspense. I did not love this book. I think it was like a 3-something star. It wasn't like the best. It was enjoyable. I liked certain parts of it. It was fun. It's a standalone set in Maryland, so I figured I might as well include it. I actually read this book for a book club, and I did reading sprints, like talking spoilers about it with Vivian at the Fig Tree Boutique. We give a book club where we read books on sprints and we talk spoilers. Yes, and we actually just finished our October book club book today, like just a couple hours ago. So yes, very fun. But anyway, back to it. This is about Adrienne Rizzo and when her mom was pregnant with her. Her mom started a like fitness YouTube channel, kind of like a mother-daughter fitness YouTube channel for other pregnant moms, and she was a single mom. And yeah, so she raised her child. Her child has become a part of her fitness channel, and when she's still a kid, her father basically busts in the door and tries to murder her and her mother and her mother's best friend. And her mom ends up killing the dad in self-defense. And yeah, the story kind of just takes off from there, I guess. You have that element, but then you also have her as a teenager. For probably about a third of the book, she isn't like an adult. And then the rest of the book is, I think, her as like an adult. And yes, so wasn't my favorite Nora, but it was definitely an enjoyable read, I would say. So yeah. Okay, for the last series in Maryland. Okay, so I might be in the same outfit, look probably the same right now, but it's been about 2 hours. I had to go do something, and then I just got like sidetracked, and then I got really hot, and so I went to go get changed, and then I had my clothes back in the washer. It was a whole thing. So it's been about 2 hours, and I'm back and ready to finish this recommendation video and get into the last recommendation for Maryland, so we can get to my stack for Ireland. So this is the In Boonsboro series, and it takes place in Maryland. It takes place in Boonsboro, which is a real town in Maryland. I believe that's where Nora Roberts lives. I could be wrong. But this inn is a real inn that Nora Roberts built. And so it takes place in her inn, basically. And it's fiction, right? It's also paranormal a little bit, I believe. I haven't read this series yet, so I'm not totally sure of all the details. I plan on reading it in November. I'm gonna buddy read it with my best friend. So I'm very excited to get to it because it's a real inn, right? And I believe I'm not totally sure on all the details, but it's about these three brothers who are renovating, or I guess building, this inn, and each book is about them falling in love, right? Like 1, 2, 3. It's a trilogy, so it'll work for that prompt as well. Yes, I don't know if there's anything else I know about it. There's, as I said, there's some light paranormal element, there's a ghost and stuff like that. Now, in another one of Nora Roberts' books, I didn't know this until I read the beginning of that. Where is that at? I just think this is very interesting, so I'm going to talk about this for a second. The beginning of Inheritance has a author's note where she talks about Nora Roberts, saying that she has had experience with ghosts. I do not believe in ghosts, but she does. Where's the author's note? There's no author's note at the beginning of the book. Maybe it's the audiobook that has the author's note? Yeah, there's no freaking author's note. I thought there would be. But in the audiobook, there's an author's note that says that this paranormal element in this book was based on her experiences with ghosts. I believe maybe at her grandmother's house and stuff like that, and also at her own inn. And guests who stay at the inn in this series, the inn in real life, have had experience there with ghosts. Now, I do not believe in ghosts, but regardless, I think the ghost experience in this book might be a little bit based in Nora's like alleged experience, right? So I don't know. I don't really know a ton about it, but I'm excited to read this one. let's get into talking about the Ireland books. I have a ton of them here. I might pare them down a little bit. So the first series I have for Ireland is the Cousins O'Dwyer, O'Dairy. I don't know how to say it, and I don't want to put on an Irish accent to say it. It is O''DWYER Trilogy, the Cousins O something Trilogy. Okay, and this is the last book. The first book is Dark Witch. Each book follows a different person, as majority of her series do. And in this first book, it is like the start of these cousins meeting each other. So there's a brother and sister who live in Ireland, and then there is their cousin Iona, who lives in America and has had kind of a rocky relationship with her mother. And so she's moving to Ireland to kind of meet her cousins and to explore witchcraft. They're witches, and she kind of is realizing through the stories her grandmother told her as a child that witchcraft is real, and she's moving to Ireland to kind of start that journey and finally find family that truly loves her, because I think her grandmother's probably dead. I could be wrong about that though. So she moves to Ireland and she starts this journey kind of becoming family with her two like cousins who she'd never met before, and building a life in Ireland and falling in love with a like farm, like a horse hand. He's not a horse hand. I think he owns a horse company. And each of these books has like an animal like companion. So Iona is like animal is a horse, and then Connor, he is the brother, the Irish brother. His animal is, I believe, a falcon, and then the sister's animal is a dog. And there is a very historical element to these books as well. Every once in a while, you'll get chapters from the past within their relatives of the past. The original the original woman who gave birth to the original 3 witches who were trying to like kill this demon who was harming them. This demon has been kind of like, I don't know, harming them, haunting them. I'm not totally sure. For generations, he, I guess, was in love with the original witch. Yes, I'm not totally sure how to describe it. And the demon was like in love with her. And so, yes, so the demon has an heir, who has been friends with this family for a long time, and he knows he is, and everyone knows that he is an ancestor of him. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's very magical. It's very like it's like very much like a kind of, I guess, even kind of close to fantasy. I think this might be kind of a start to her writing fantasy books. There's a lot of like battles with the demon, and kind of will they succeed in the end, I guess. It's kind of the vibe of it. It's really good. And then, okay, so the next book is Hideway, and this is a romantic suspense standalone. Yeah. So this is about a girl who's like pretty young, and her family is all, I believe her name is Kate. Girl is pretty young. I believe her name's Katie? I think so, yeah. Let's go with Katie. Katie, who his whole family is kind of like anything to do with being famous and being a part of like entertainment, I guess, really what they are. And they're a huge family. And this book takes place partially in California, but also in Ireland as well. I thought it also took place in partially Maryland, but I think I'm wrong about that. At some point, she lives in Ireland, not for the whole book, but at some point. And when she's a child, she gets kidnapped. And you see that's like the first like third of the book. And one of her family members orchestrated it, basically. You find that out pretty quickly. You can tell which family member did it, okay? You can just tell. One of her family members orchestrated it, and after she kind of rescues herself or gets rescued, the story kind of follows her life through her teen years, through, early 20s into her 30s, and just her eventually finding, a romance, but also dating other people, and just trying to explore what kind of career she wants in the entertainment industry, but also having to deal with having this relative kind of like try to get back at her and try to connect to her again, try to get fame out of her again. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. It wasn't my favorite, but it was definitely an enjoyable one. Okay, so the next series I have here is the Born In Trilogy. It's following these two sisters originally in Ireland. This is the first book. This is the second book, and that's the third. So I'll do it like that to make it easier for myself. So this series is basically following originally these two sisters, and then kind of you find out kind of throughout, I guess, really what is the second book? I thought it was going to be the first book, the beginning of the first book, but it wasn't. It was in the middle of the second book, which I've only read half of the second book, and I've read the first. Haven't touched the third yet. That they have a half-sister, that their father had an affair. Yes, but it's also in the synopsis of the series. It's like the point of the series, but it comes much later in the series. So the titles are basically what these people were born into. This is contemporary, but born into the feelings of their parents. Basically, really not born into, but like conceived in. So, conceived in fire. Her mom and dad were in love. They were not married. And the mother is extremely Catholic. And so she kind of resents her child for destroying her relationship, because the relationship like burned out, and she has guilt for the past that she had with her husband. And then the second book is Born in Ice. The mother and the father had another child when the relationship was icy. It wasn't the best. And they did it because that's what they were supposed to do, or that's what the mother thought she was supposed to do. And she has a lot of regrets. She's a lot of resentment towards her children. And she wasn't a good mom. She's in the books, and she was physically abusive. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe she was physically abusing with her first daughter growing up, and then she was emotionally abusive towards her second daughter. Now, I believe this book has a lot to do with religious trauma. She very much guilted her daughter into having the guilt that she had from the things that she had done when she was younger, and so she guilted her daughter and shamed her daughter and brought like fear into her daughter because of her religion. And there's religious trauma in this book for sure. And then the third book, which I haven't read yet, is Born in Shame, which is the child that's their half-sibling on their dad's side, because their dad had an affair because their mother was abusive. So there's a lot going on in this series, but the first one was good. Second one was good. I couldn't finish it yet because it was a lot and I had to put it down. But I do want to get back to it in the winter time, this winter, and then eventually Born in Shame. I think my cat wants to leave. Do you want to leave, honey? She hears something out there. She wants to leave. Oh, Hallie. Oh my gosh. Kind of shut the door on her there. Okay. I think I'm going to call it there. I did have another book I was going to recommend, or another series, but I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. Yeah, so that was, recommendations I have of the books I've read and enjoyed or am planning on reading. I hope I enjoy it, I guess. I'm sure there are other books set in Maryland and set in Ireland out there. So do what you can with this prompt. If it doesn't work for you, then obviously no pressure to do it. It's very casual, as I said at the beginning. I don't think there's anything else I have to say. I hope that if you read one of these books, you love it. And if you do, let me know. I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.